Alrighty, so yes, that board is on fire, and no, nothing has gone wrong. I lit it on purpose, and it's the most useful fire I'll light all year. That right there is a cedar fence picket, $3.50 at the box store, and over in Japan they've been charring boards exactly like it for something like 400 years. The technique is called sho sugi ban. Some folks say yakisugi. And by the end of today, that burnt little picket is going to be part of a planter that sells for more than 10 times what the wood cost me. Okay, so here's the bigger idea. Everybody hears Japanese woodworking and pictures some $1,000 slab and a master craftsman with 50 years of training, and that world is real. I respect it. But the everyday tradition, the fences and the lanterns and the trays and the little stands, that was regular carpenters doing clever things with cheap, soft, ordinary wood. Cedar, cypress, pine. Which, funny enough, is pretty much exactly what the box store sells you and me. So today I've got 7 Japanese-style projects that genuinely sell faster than I can build them. And I mean that as a complaint. My order list right now is a little embarrassing. Every single one comes out of construction lumber, fence pickets, and trim from the molding aisle. You don't need a joiner, you don't need a planer. If you've got a circular saw or a miter saw, a drill, a sharp chisel, some clamps and sandpaper, you're in business. Plus one cheap propane torch for a couple of these. For each project, I'll give you the technique that makes it read as Japanese, why people pay real money for it, and the actual price range I get, not wishful thinking. Biscuit has been banished to the house for the fire parts. She is deeply offended about it, and the clearance rack plants get to stay out here with me because honestly they've survived worse. Alrighty, let's build. Number 1. Charred wood planters and coasters. The Shosugi band stuff. Okay, so the technique is the entire product here. And that's exactly what I love about it. Traditionally, Japanese builders charred cedar siding to protect it because that burnt layer shrugs off water and bugs and sunlight, and it just so happens to look incredible, this deep crackled black that catches the light like alligator skin. And here's why it's perfect for people like us. Charring completely hides cheap wood. Once a board is black, nobody on earth can tell a budget fence picket from some fancy imported plank. The char is the great equalizer. Wood-wise, cedar fence pickets are the move. Mine run $3.50 to $4 each, and cedar chars beautifully, though a bone-dry 2x4 works too, and dry is the key word. Wet lumber spits and steams and sulks instead of charring. Now the safety talk, and I'm dead serious on this one. This happens outside, on concrete or gravel, on a still day, with the garden hose hooked up and a bucket of water right there. Never in the garage next to a bin of sawdust. A basic propane torch from the plumbing aisle is all you need. Keep the flame moving, char the face until the surface crackles, and when a board looks done, mist it down and let it sit a good hour, because charred wood loves to hide a sneaky ember. No dogs, no kids, no flip-flops. And if the torch just isn't for you, zero shame in that. You can get most of the look with black stain and a wire brush. I've done it, it sells too. After the char cools, brush off the loose stuff with a wire brush, always going with the grain. Light strokes keep it darker and more dramatic. Heavier strokes bring the grain back through in these gorgeous silver and black stripes, so do a test board and find the look you like. Then wipe it clean and oil it. Plain tongue oil or a hardware store, Danish oil is plenty. Quick honest warning, oily rags can heat themselves up and catch fire all on their own, so used rags get laid out flat on the concrete until they dry stiff, never wadded up in the trash. The build itself is nothing new. It's basically the little slatted trough planter from my earlier video, same box, just smaller and cedar and charred, butt joints, exterior glue, screws driven from the inside where nobody ever sees them. The no nails showing off starts on the next project. Planters go $35 to $60 depending on size, and charred coaster sets, just squares with felt feet and a tough sealer, go $20 to $30 for a set of 4. The finish is the product, folks. Hold on to that torch, it comes back for the last project on the list. Number 2, a joinery display shelf. The shelf with no nails in it anywhere. Okay, so if the charred stuff sells because of what you add, this one sells because of what's missing. There's no screw, no nail, no bracket. And buyers absolutely notice the phrase no metal fasteners does some serious heavy lifting in a listing. The tradition here is Japanese joinery, wood holding wood, and the deep end of that pool is temple carpentry that takes a lifetime, so we're staying in the shallow end. 2 joints you can cut this weekend. The half lap, where 2 boards each give up half their thickness so they cross dead flush, and the dado, which is a flat bottom groove that a shelf sits into like it grew there, both get cut the same way. Set your circular saw depth to half the board, make a bunch of side-by-side passes like you're mowing a tiny lawn, snap the waste out with a chisel, and pare the bottom flat. Slow is fine, tidy is the goal. Mine came out of 2x4s ripped down, and quick reminder if you're new around here, 2x4s come from the mill with rounded corners, so rip a whisker off each edge first so your joints close up tight and square. That one boring step is most of the difference between construction lumber and what people think is expensive lumber. 2 uprights, 2 shelves, half laps where they cross, glue only, clamped overnight. And because I can't help myself, I added one show-off move, a through tenon, which is where the shelf pokes clean through the upright so you see its end grain sitting proud on the far side. You drill out most of the waste, chisel the hole square, and sneak up on the fit. Took me 3 tries on scrap, and my first real one still came out ugly on one face, so that face went against the wall, and in 2 years not one soul has ever asked about it. Why it sells. Minimalist floating shelves are all over the decor world right now, and nearly all of them are particle board hiding a metal bracket, so a solid wood shelf, where the joinery itself is the decoration, reads as handmade from across the room. Mine go $60 for a small single, up to $120 for the 2-tier version, and the wood in the big one is maybe $9 of 2x4. Sand to 220 grit, 1 coat of oil, and hang it on a wood French cleat, which is just a beveled strip on the wall, so even the hanger is wood. Buyers eat that up. So there it is up on the wall, glued, square, holding a stack of actual books, and there's not one piece of metal in the entire thing, cleat included. And honestly, that moment right there, when a pile of 2x4s quietly turns into a piece of furniture, that's my favorite milestone in any build. And hey, while that glue cures, if these cheap lumber builds are doing anything for you, go ahead and subscribe to Hank Hardwood. We're only 2 projects into this list. 5 more Japanese-style builds are coming your way in the next few minutes. And past those, I've got tons more beginner-friendly construction lumber projects already sitting on the bench. Alrighty, number 3, bonsai stands, or if I'm honest about who actually buys them, fancy houseplant stands. The Japanese design language on these is low, wide, and quiet. Short splayed legs, a top that overhangs just a little, and a small chamfer on every single edge so nothing looks sharp or slapped together. I cut the leg angles at about 7 degrees on the miter saw, joined the legs to the aprons with glue and dowels, and cut the chamfers with a $20 block plane, which is the closest thing to a planer this channel will ever ask you to buy. The little ones end up around 10 inches square and 8 inches tall, and the big ones run about 18 by 12. The trick that makes pine work here is ebonizing, and longtime viewers can already see where this is going, because it's my vinegar and steel wool barnwood trick with one extra step. Brew a pot of the cheapest, strongest black tea you can find, paint that on first and let it dry, then hit it with the vinegar and steel wool mix. The tea loads the wood up with tannins, so instead of that soft weathered gray, the pine goes from orange to storm cloud, this deep charcoal brown that photographs like it came out of an old temple. Quick tip on that finish, it can dry a little chalky, so once it cures, buff it with a gray pad and wipe on a coat of oil, and the depth comes right back, dusty to dramatic in about a minute. Why it sells. Plant people are my people, and the houseplant crowd will pay real money for anything that makes the plant look displayed instead of parked. Mine go $40 to $90 depending on size. And yes, the clearance rack ferns I rescued last spring are all sitting on these now like little green royalty, and they've turned into the best product photos I've ever taken. Number 4, a Shoji style lamp, and this is the one that stops people scrolling. A Shoji screen is that classic Japanese room divider, a light wooden grid with translucent paper glowing through it, and a small table lamp version of that is one of the best-selling things I've ever put online. Here's the part that makes it beginner-friendly. The grid doesn't get cut from boards at all. It gets built from screen molding. That skinny 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch trim hiding in the molding aisle, and it's basically pre-milled lamp parts for pocket change. Cut 4 corner posts, cut your rails and grid bars, then tiny half laps where the pieces cross, and at this size you can cut those with just a sharp chisel and a little guide block. Glue it up gently. This is not a mallet situation. For the glowing part, real washi paper is lovely, but a sheet of vellum from the craft store costs a couple dollars and looks about 95% the same once it's lit. Stick it to the inside of the frames with a thin coat of plain white glue and trim the edges with a fresh blade. Now the safety line, and this one is non-negotiable. The light source is a battery puck light or a cool running bulb, period. No candles and no hot bulbs, because a paper and pine box around an open flame is just a house fire with nice joinery. The battery pucks with a little remote cost a few dollars, and buyers actually prefer them, no cord in the photo. Why it sells, That warm glow picture at dusk is the entire listing. It does the selling for you. And here's a bonus. The wedding folks found mine, same crowd from the wedding sign video, and they buy these in pairs for reception tables. Singles go 50 to 75, and pairs go for 100 and change. Number 5, a wooden tea tray, or a serving tray if we're not feeling fancy. This one is edge-glued 1x6 pine, 2 boards wide, with low raised lips glued along the long edges, and the whole Japanese feel comes from restraint. Straight lines, a gentle chamfer under the rim so the tray looks thinner than it is, and no bolted on handles. Instead you cut 2 shallow finger grooves under the ends, and your hands just find them on their own. Mine come out around 18 inches by 11. Since somebody always asks about glue-ups without a planer, the honest answer is you cheat at the store. Pick through the rack for the 2 straightest, flattest boards in the pile, get your meeting edges clean and square, and clamp with a flat scrap board laid across the seam so the boards can't slide out of line while the glue grabs. If the seam still ends up with a whisker of a step, sand it out. Pine is soft and it forgives you. One honest note while we're here, this is a serving tray, not a cutting board. We talked about why cutting boards really do want hardwood back in that video, but a tray just has to carry the teapot, so pine is completely fine. Finish it with a hard wax oil or a salad bowl finish so it wipes clean. And sand the underside too, because buyers always flip a tray over. It's the first thing they do at a market table. Why it sells. That whole quiet morning tea ritual look is huge in home decor right now, and what people are really paying for is a calmer breakfast. $35 to $70 depending on size and how clean your chamfers come out. Number 6, and this is the boss level of the list, Kumiko. Kumiko is that geometric Japanese lattice work, dozens and dozens of tiny wood pieces friction fit together into patterns, and when people see it in person they assume a master built it, which is exactly why a little set of Kumiko coasters can sell for more than an entire shelf. Deep breath though, because this one carries the biggest safety flag of the whole day. Kumiko needs thin strips, around a 1/4 inch, and ripping skinny strips on a table saw with your fingers walking past the blade is how you end up on a first name basis with the emergency room staff. Use a thin rip jig and a push block every single time, or better yet, skip the ripping entirely and head back to the molding aisle. Because screen molding is honestly pre-made Kumiko stock hiding in plain sight, straight grained, consistent, and nobody has to bleed for it. The pattern work sounds impossible and is actually just repetition. You build a simple square grid first, half laps again, our old friend from the shelf, and then you cut short infill pieces with their ends paired to an angle so they wedge into the squares and turn into stars. The classic pattern is called asanoha, the hemp leaf, and the only jig you need is a scrap block with a 45-degree face that you rest your chisel against so every tiny end gets paired exactly the same. My first hemp leaf panel had gaps in it you could park biscuit in, and my 10th one looked like I'd been doing it for years. It's that kind of skill. Pure repetitions. So put a podcast on and settle in. Why it sells, perceived skill per square inch, and nothing else on this list comes close. A set of 4 Kumiko coasters goes $40 to $60. A panel about the size of a sheet of paper, set in a simple frame, goes $150 and up as wall art, and the material cost is almost embarrassing, a few sticks of molding. And number 7, the easiest one on the list, the one you could genuinely make tonight, minimalist incense holders. This is the offcut bin's big moment, because every project so far has been quietly feeding it. A good incense holder is just a clean little block of wood, maybe 8 or 9 inches long, with one shallow hole drilled at a slight angle, about 10 degrees off straight up, so the stick leans back like it's relaxing, plus a shallow groove down the middle to catch the ash, which is 2 saw kerfs and a quick chisel cleanout. Then you dress it up with everything we already learned today. Char the ends with a torch from number 1, or ebonize the whole thing with the tea and vinegar trick from the plant stand. Ease every edge with the block plane, stick felt feet on the bottom, done. Drill a test hole and scrap first with whatever incense you plan to include, because stick sizes vary, and yes, include a few sticks with each one. It costs you pennies and turns a wood block into a finished gift. Sand them silky, these get handled every single day so they should feel as good as they look. Why it sells? It's a low price, 0 risk purchase, people grab them as add-ons next to a bigger item, and they bundle beautifully. One holder plus a set of charred coasters reads like a little Zen gift box. I sell them at $15 to $25 each, mostly in sets of 3, and per minute of work they're the fastest money on this entire list. Alrighty, table shot, look at this. 7 projects on one bench. The charred planter with a rescued fern living its best life. the no-nail shelf, the little ebonized stand, the Shoji lamp doing its glow thing now that the sun's going down, the tea tray, the Kumiko coasters, and a row of incense holders standing at attention while Biscuit sniffs every single one like she's quality control. Total wood cost for everything on this table, somewhere around $65. What it all lists for together, north of $500. And not one board of it came from anywhere fancier than the box store and the trim aisle, which was the whole point. The Japanese aesthetic was never about expensive wood, it's about care. Straight lines, clean edges, honest joints, and a couple of old techniques that turn cheap softwood into something people slow down for. So if a bench full of projects like this is the kind of thing you want to build, subscribe to Hank Hardwood, because this is what we do here. Real furniture and real sellers out of 2x4s and fence pickets, beginner friendly the whole way through. And the list of builds coming up, including a Kumiko headboard I'm a little nervous about, just keeps getting longer. Alrighty, that's the video. Go get yourself a fence picket and a cheap torch. Be safe with the fire part, and I'll see you in the shop.